I used to work at an OXXO when I was just over 20 years old. Honestly, it wasn't the best salary in the world, but it wasn't that bad either. I had my schedule, I knew the regular customers, and I could more or less cover my expenses. The problem was that I always saw other people with better cars, more expensive clothes, and more money in their pockets, and I started comparing myself. I remember that many times I was restocking or working the register, and people would come in who seemed like they didn't have a care in the world. They had money, they would treat people to things, they talked about business, and when you're young, you think other people's lives are always easier. Over time, I started hanging out with people who knew other people, and that's how they started putting ideas in my head. They never directly told me to get into trouble. On the contrary, they talked to me about quick money, about opportunities, and about how I was wasting my time behind a cash register. And honestly, at that moment, I believed them. There came a point where I started to feel that working at OXXO wasn't going to get me anywhere. Today I know I was wrong, but back then I thought differently. I felt like I was moving too slowly while everyone else was moving ahead. One day I accepted an offer. I'm not going to say exactly what I did or with whom, because it's not worth going into details. But little by little I left my job and started hanging out with people who were involved in things I knew perfectly well weren't right. Initially, everything seemed easy. I was earning more. I wasn't so worried about expenses anymore. I even started to think that I had made the right decision. But that feeling didn't last long. Because when you start living like that, you also start to notice things that nobody brags about. You start to distrust everyone. You start to watch what you say. You start to wonder who knows about you, and gradually realize you no longer live in peace. I remember that before all of that, I could leave work, buy something for dinner, and get home without thinking too much. Afterward, it wasn't the same. I was always on alert. I always had the feeling that something could go wrong. And the worst part is that on the outside, you try to act normal, but inside, you know that something isn't right. There was a time when I went back home after several days without seeing my family. My mom asked me how I was doing, and I told her I was fine. But moms notice things that you think you can hide. She looked at me for a few seconds and said, "You're not the same anymore." At that moment, I laughed to dodge the conversation, but she was right. I wasn't the same anymore. I had traded my peace of mind for money. I had traded my normal schedule for a life full of uncertainty. And the more time went by, the more I wondered if it was really worth it. The answer came on its own. One day I looked in the mirror and realized I had been living for months with stress, worry, and fear. I had more money than before, yes, but I didn't enjoy anything anymore. Not food, not going out, not even sleeping, because I always felt like something could happen. That's when I realized I had taken a path I didn't want to keep following. Getting out wasn't something that happened overnight. It was hard work to rebuild my life and start over. But little by little, I did it. Today I work honestly. I didn't get rich, I don't have impressive luxuries, but I can sleep peacefully, I can sit down to eat with my family. I can answer the phone without worrying, and I can look my mom in the eyes knowing I have nothing to hide. Sometimes I remember when I was stocking sodas in boxes at that OXXO. It makes me laugh to think I once believed life was a failure. The truth is, I was much closer to peace in those days than at any time after. That's why, if anyone is thinking that quick money is going to solve all their problems, I hope they take a moment to really think about it. Some decisions seem good at first, but later you realize they take more from you than they give. And if someone watching this has a story they're still not ready to share, believe me, sometimes talking about what you've been through helps more than you think.